Yes, I can see him.
Okay, I'm admitted all now.
Mommy.
Good afternoon. While we wait, kindly introduce yourself in the chat and remove distractions, get a beverage, get note-taking stuff, and center yourself. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Wida. Nice to meet you too. Hello again, everyone. I just want to let you know that we will be starting in about 4 minutes at around 6:05. Someone is calling from Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge. Can you let me know your name, please? Hello.
Hello.
Hi there, welcome. Can I have your name, please, so I can put it on your account here?
Yep, hi, it's Tanya, T-A-N-Y-A.
Thank you, Tanya. Welcome. Teresa, I can't rename it on my end. Thank you. Welcome to today's discussion session on peer-to-peer conflict resolution with Karen McFarlane. Please introduce yourself in the chat box, including name, pronouns, and the communities you're joining from. Welcome, Ivy.
Hi.
So we have 1 minute before we start. So feel free to grab your water, remove distractions, get beverage, get note-taking stuff, center yourself, and we're about to start. Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our mutual aid organizers small group discussion series, peer-to-peer conflict resolution, facilitated by Karen McFarlane. And I'm gonna lead the land acknowledgement. I would like to acknowledge that Toronto is built upon the traditional lands of the Mississauga, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Chippewa, the Huron, and many other Indigenous peoples. I would like to acknowledge that Canada was founded as a trade and commerce economy that continues to affect the lives and well-being of Indigenous peoples, putting economic agreed in front of Indigenous rights. For that reason, I would like to recognize that the invaluable work happening in the Mutual Aid Pods project is based in the Indigenous cultural worldview of kinship, taking care of your community and giving what you have to others who may have less. Although we are doing this work on Toronto soil, it is important to acknowledge that there is a long way to go before conciliation can occur between the City of Toronto and Indigenous peoples. Finally, I would like to acknowledge that many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island live in Toronto. I would like to value their diversity of cultural worldviews, their resiliency, and their ties to their communities. I'm going to read the community agreement. We are dedicated to creating an inclusive environment for all. Our meetings will build accessible and welcoming spaces for people of all races, genders, classes, abilities, ages, cultures, religions, and sexualities. We will not tolerate harassment of any form, including but not limited to racism, classism, sexism, ableism, homophobia, transphobia, or any other oppressive language and behavior. If you witness or experience harassment, please inform a member of the organizing team, uh, marked by a star before our names. Thank you. Community Agreement Guidelines, one diva, one mic. Make space, take space. It's like if you like to talk, then make space. And if you're shy talker or you're shy to talk, take space. Oops, ouch, oops. You can say oops when you hear something that hurts you or you find it very offensive or something that's hurtful. And ouch, no, it's the opposite. I'm sorry. Oops, if you have said something that you want to take back, that you might think it's hurtful or offensive. And ouch is the first one that I said that you might feel hurt with the comment or something like that. And be mindful of time. No one knows everything, but together we know a lot. Awareness of power and privilege, patience and respect. Please note, session will be recorded. Now I will transfer it to Shahanara.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm Shahanara. I am the TU Fellow for the Downtown East Toronto. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. And today we are doing mutual aid organizer small group discussion series. And we are doing this one until May. And today our discussion series is about the conflict resolution, peer-to-peer conflict resolution. So please feel free to register here, and our chat moderator and coordinator, Ana Teresa, will put the link at the chat box for your reference. And so mutual aid small group discussion series is about a space where we get together and share our information, skills, and knowledge. Also, we discuss organizing tactics and strategies, share and build stories, keep in touch, share your skills, knowledge, and you can suggest topics for discussions or more volunteer for topics, or you can lead the discussion. Please register here, and I will put the registration form for you in the chat box, and everyone is welcomed. Next slide, please. So our agenda is for today, we'll do tech check and logistics. And then we'll do the presentation by Karen McFarlane. And then we'll do the quick Q&A and then small group discussions. And now I'll pass it on to Nita. Sorry. And now I'll pass it on to Anna Teresa. She's our coordinator and supervisor. She will let you know the next slide. Thank you, Anna.
Go ahead, Nita.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Shahanara, for the overview. And now I'm going to give an overview of how we will work. So can I have the next slide, please, Anna? This is a Zoom overview. You can mute and unmute yourself. And if you're not speaking, please mute yourself. And the mute button is on your left bottom corner. And take yourself on and off camera. Take yourself off camera if your Wi-Fi is unstable. And in the participant tab that's in the center, you can raise and lower your hand. And you can also rename yourself, which is very helpful during group discussion. And in the chat box tab, you can post comments and questions that we will raise during discussion. And we'll also post link here as well. And the last thing I'm going to tell you, it's for people who's on the phone. So if you're over the phone, use *6 to mute or unmute and *9 to raise your hand. Can I have a slide? Okay. So as you can see in the screen on the top, you can rename yourself by on Zoom by hovering over your name and clicking rename and add to your name and pronouns. And for the gallery view, it's on the right top corner. And this will be very helpful during small group discussion when we'll go in the breakout room. Like this. And here it's today's session. It's mutual aid organizers small group discussion series. And the topic today is peer-to-peer conflict resolution. And our guest is Karen McFarlane, is a resident of South Etobicoke. She has volunteered as a dispute resolution associate at Humber College and as a mediator with Stephen Community House. She is a member of Community Relations Advisory Committee at LAMP CHC with the Neighbour Pods Project and with special projects. She has a postgraduate certificate in alternative dispute resolution, a Bachelor of Laws degree, and bachelor's and master's degree in business administration. So now I would like to introduce Karen, and here, Karen, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here to share. Just to let you know that I have my son in the background. So if you hear a little noise, please excuse me. I have to keep one eye on him and one eye on the presentation. I tried to bribe him with some markers, so hopefully it works. And I'll be able to get through this presentation without any problems. I'm just going to be sharing my screen with you. Give me a second. Yes, is everyone seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so let me start from the first one. Okay. So yes, this is a peer-to-peer conflict resolution session. And thank you for being here as well. And I'll just start by basically, I mean, all of us know what conflict is. We have all had some sort of conflict at some point in time. But just to start the discussion, I'll just start with what is conflict. And simply put, conflict is a serious disagreement or argument or a clash of interest. And I saw this very interesting video that I think, you know, we could use to kick off our session, and I hope you enjoy it. So I'm just going to see if I can get it open. Yes, so enjoy.
Sorry, Karen, I don't think we're hearing anything at the moment. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we can't see it.
You can't see it?
No.
All right, hold on. Okay, let me see what's going on here.
You might have to close this page.
Okay.
Karen, there was a suggestion from Miles that you could potentially close this page and share the YouTube page.
Sharing. Okay, so let me.
Or
so
stop sharing, yes.
And then go back. Okay.
Yes.
So probably that's the problem. Bear with me. It's my first time on this end of the Zoom workshops. So let me start again. And you can let me know if you're hearing it this time. Are you hearing and seeing?
We're not seeing a shared screen at the moment.
Okay.
So take your time, no pressure. We are early on our schedule. So if you want to, again, go down to the green button at the bottom, it should say share screen.
Am I seeing that?
A window should pop up and you should see all the screens you have open. One of them should be the YouTube window and you should share that YouTube window.
I am not seeing that.
Otherwise, what you can do is put the link for the YouTube video into the chat box and I can share it on my end.
Okay, that might.
We'll try that.
That might work. Hopefully I don't cut you off. Are you still seeing my PowerPoint presentation?
Nope, we're on a gallery. I'm on gallery view at the moment, so we can see people's screens.
Okay.
So Karen, feel free to put the YouTube link into the chat box.
Yes, I'm just sharing this again so that. The end of it. I hope that sort of whet your appetite in terms of what conflict resolution is about. I'm gonna share my presentation again. So let me see. Okay, is everyone seeing the PowerPoint presentation? Okay, great. All right, so I'll just get into the meat of the matter. So first of all, my postgraduate certificate with Humber is in alternative dispute resolution. So, and we're talking about conflict resolution. So I just wanted to make a distinction so that persons are aware of what each term means. So alternative dispute resolution is essentially an alternative to the formal justice system. So for example, mediation and conflict coaching, arbitration, negotiations that are done outside of the court and sometimes in conjunction with court matters, these are all alternatives to resolving disputes. Now, what is conflict? Well, we dealt with conflict before. So what are the approaches to conflict resolution? So conflict resolution is essentially the broad umbrella of resolving conflicts. So whether you go through the courts, whether you do a mediation, whether you do war, that's all trying to resolve a conflict. So I have three broad headings under which conflict resolution can be put. So the first is power-based, and that is where persons use threat, physical force, intimidation, and again, war in an effort to try and resolve a conflict. And then we have the rights-based approach, which is essentially the court system. And in this system, what is looked at is whether or not the person followed the rules and the regulations, whether or not they are correct or whether or not they are wrong. And now we have the interest-based approach, which is essentially what we'll be dealing with this evening, which is more of a community mediation sort of approach where you try to not necessarily look at who is right or who is wrong, but we try to look at the underlying issues that surrounds someone's actions. What are the person's underlying needs? What are their concerns? What was going on when they perhaps did what they did? So it's not about using force or coercion. It's about it's a voluntary process, and persons generally volunteer to be a part of the process. And essentially, they are the owners of the process, and whatever the outcome is, it's their own. So that essentially is the interest-based approach. Now, before I go deep into the interest-based approach, let us first examine our conflict management styles. Most of us deal with conflicts in different ways. Some of us avoid conflicts, while some of us perhaps love conflicts. So don't be confused by this graph. It's really just showing you degrees to assertiveness and degrees to cooperation. So at the top of the assertiveness scale, we have competing. So you have some persons who are very competitive and they are a win-lose situation. They always want to win. They always want to succeed. And so they are not necessarily looking to compromise. They want to be right all the time. And then at the bottom of this axis, you have avoiding. Then you have the opposite of that, where persons may decide, okay, I don't want to deal with this. I hate dealing with conflict, so I'm just not going to deal with it. And in that situation, the conflict is not resolved because it's not being dealt with. And then you have the other extreme as well, accommodating, where someone will always be accommodating the other person and they're not letting their side be heard. So in essence, a conflict is not being resolved because you are not letting others know how you feel. And then you have compromising, which is in the middle. So you're trying to meet in the middle. And so you're giving up some of what you would want, and the other person is giving up some of what they would want in an effort to come to a solution. That is also good. And then you have collaborating. Now, collaborating is where it takes a longer time and people work on different options together to get to a solution that benefits both in the end. So you would get a more win-win situation. So it's different from compromising in the sense that you are not necessarily just leaving some of your interests behind. You're bringing it forward, but discussing it in such a way as to trying to achieve a win-win situation for all the parties concerned. So of course it is much harder to get there because it takes more time. If you have any questions about this, you can put it in the chat box and I'll address it after. The next slide, I really give some examples. Let me go to that. The other slide, I give some examples as to what each mode looks like. And so you can read it for yourself. So for example, competing, that person who is more of a competing nature would say my agenda is what is most important and that is what I want and everything else is secondary. So it gives you an idea of how different persons deal with conflict. So the essence of this is for us to look within ourselves to see how do we approach conflict, because if you know how you generally are when you're approaching conflict, then it helps you when you're resolving the conflict. Because if you're always running away when you should be confronting, especially if it's a situation where you're going to be seeing that person every day, then you may want to develop your strength, for want of a better word, to try and approach this person or to get someone to assist you to approach this person so that you can confront it. Because if you avoid all the time, then there may be a time when your back is against the wall, so to speak, and you may do something that you regret. So it's always good to know what your mood is and then address conflicts in that way. I would also like to say that there's no right or wrong mode, and each mode is effective at different times. Because of course, if you're in a situation where you feel fearful or you have more important things to do, then it may be necessary for you to avoid at that time and not confront or just leave it to another time. So all these different modes are useful at different times, and there is no right or wrong mode. But essentially, we would want to get to a point where all parties benefit in the best way. So we would want to collaborate, especially when we all have to live with the results of resolving the conflict. So again, if you have any questions on this, please feel free to post your questions in the chat box and we can deal with it after. So I'm going to go back now to interest-based approach, which, as I said before, interest-based is the mediation and the conflict coaching from the perspective of looking at what is most important to each party with respect to the conflict. And because we're not looking at who is right or who is wrong, or we're not looking at the laws or the rules, this is more suitable for peer-to-peer conflict resolution. So what this does, as I said before, is it seeks to identify and address what is most important to each party. And a collaborative approach seeks to come up with a collaborative approach that allows for creativity and problem solving. This happens because all the parties involved would be working together to arrive at the solution. And you will see a little bit of that further down, where I give you a snapshot of what the mediation process looks like. And the parties at the end of the process, they are the owners of the outcome. And so they are likely to be more satisfied with the solution. Because when there's a third party involved who is going to make the decision, as in the case of the court, most times, if not all, there is one party or both parties who are not pleased with the outcome. But in a situation of mediation, when both parties work together on the solution, it is more likely that they the result may be one that pleases the parties involved. So a little bit more about interest-based. So I've broken it down into, I'm calling it methods or techniques. So you have conflict coaching, and this is where you have one party. So you may have a friend who has an issue with mother, father, spouse, and so on, and they may come to you. And the other party may not necessarily be available for you to, say, mediate, or, you know, that person just wants to feedback from you. So when you're dealing with one party, is really conflict coaching, but the same skills that you would need for the mediation, you can use it in the conflict coaching. So I delve more into the mediation aspect of it, because that can be used. Because even before a mediation, each party is usually coached, so to speak, so as to find out where they're coming from in the conflict. So this is a short-term intervention. It helps the parties understand their needs in regard to the conflict, helps parties communicate their concerns to the other party, and it helps the party respond to the concerns, their concerns helps the party respond to the concerns of the other party, because many times we only see our side of it. So conflict coaching helps the person to see their side as well as the other person's side, as much as, you know, you're able to assist, because each person tells their own side of the story. Okay. So now I move into mediation. So this is where you have more than one party, and you can have 2, 3, depends on all of the amount of persons who are involved in the conflict. Of course, the more persons you have, the more complicated it is going to be. But essentially, just so that you understand what it is, simply put, mediation is a process of resolving disputes where an intermediary helps the conflicting parties have a conversation to jointly resolve their concerns. So why I'm going into mediation is not that I'm saying we're all going to pursue a career in mediation, but we all get involved in either mediating conflicts, whether we are aware that we're mediating or not. And so it's good for us to know so we can help ourselves and our family and friends. So, but in the formal process, mediation normally follows a sequence of steps and phases. And there is usually a specific disagreement or incident that would have triggered the need for mediation. Both parties usually agree to the mediation. And I say usually because the court is now ordering, in some civil matters, they order the parties to go to mediation prior to the court hearing the matter, because it may be a simple matter that if both parties just sit down and talk about it with a mediator, they probably would be able to come to a conclusion that best suits them, rather than the judge saying, this is how you should do it. So, but in terms of community mediation, it's usually a case where persons volunteer or they agree to the services of a mediation or a mediator. And they normally agree, there's usually an agreement that they want to work towards an agreeable solution. So the mediator is, quote unquote, a neutral third party who manages the process. So anyone can do it. It's really managing the process, and if the parties would have already agreed that they want you to mediate the process, then they would have had some sort of confidence in you. So the key is to be as neutral as possible. Sometimes it's difficult, but the key is to be neutral so that you have the confidence of the parties. So I'll just be giving a snapshot of what the mediation process looks like. So usually each party, and I'm on in the first column, I'll just listed the phases, and on in the second column, essentially outline what the goal of each phase is. So in the first phase, you want to ensure that each party is willing to participate, because it's a voluntary process and you don't want persons to feel as if they're being forced. And you welcome them, you explain what the process is, what you're trying to achieve, because you would have, in a formal process, you would have spoken with them prior. So you would have had an understanding of each person's interest in the matter. And when I say interest, I mean, say for example, two persons live together and one person is playing the music loudly and the other person wants to sleep. So one person's interest is being able to sleep and the other person's interest might be being able to enjoy or have some recreation. So that's just a simple example. And then in phase one, each party needs to feel that the mediator understands their concern. So what generally happens is that the mediator would have each person tell their story individually, and the mediator would listen and acknowledge. Also ask questions where there is need for clarifications. In phase two, each party needs to feel, the goal of that is that each party needs to feel that the other party understands what is important to them. So using that same example that I just gave, so the one party would understand, having heard what the other said, that one, essentially, it's not that I really want to disturb you, it's just that music helps me to relax and that's my thing. That is what helps me to focus. While the other person may say, well, I have work at 5 a.m. in the morning and I just want to sleep. So at the end of it, each party understands where the other is coming from, and it is not that one is being malicious towards the other. So that is the hope of that phase. Okay, moving to the other slide. And then the other phase now, phase three, deals with both parties having a discussion. So it would be a clear, and at the end of it, at the end of that discussion, the hope is to come to an agreement. So in this discussion, the mediator would help the parties to essentially come up with options that they both can work with. So an example would, well, using the same example, one thing that they could probably do is say, work out a schedule. I'll only play my music between X time and Y time. And then the other person could say, well, I'm not at home at this time, so that time is good for me. So or they may say, okay, if the music is played at a particular volume, it doesn't bother me. So those are things that would have come out, and all of those options would be listed so that persons are able to say, okay, which one of these options would best suit both of us, so that both of us would still be able to enjoy or live in space and feel as if their interests are heard and are taken seriously. So in the closing phase, if both parties agree, and even if they don't agree, once they would have gotten the opportunity to speak and to participate in the process, the aim is that at the end, each party would feel a sense of accomplishment and closure, having been able to express him or herself as it relates to their concerns. So next I'm gonna go to, and essentially that's the end of the mediation process. It seems, I just took as I said, a snapshot, a simplistic view. Of course, it's not that straightforward necessarily in real life, because people don't always agree, but at least this is something that can be used as a guide to, hold on, yes, baby, yes. Excuse me, my son wanted to give me a kiss. But this can be used as a guide to help each of us to go through the process of mediation when we are possibly called upon to assist our friends and family. So going into some helpful techniques that can be used. So the first one is active listening. And active listening is really listening to learn and understand. And what that means is that it's not listening to respond or to come up with a reply. It's really just listening to understand with a clear mind. And so, and I find that if you listen, really listen to what people are saying, and you'll be able to appreciate what they're saying much better. And another technique is being able to ask clarifying questions. So one good way is to ask open-ended questions. And I try to put examples beside each so that persons will have an idea of what I mean. So for example, you would say, how did that make you feel? You know, when the person was playing the music loudly and you didn't get to sleep, essentially, going back to that example, how did that make you feel? So you wouldn't ask them, were you upset? Because that would be a yes or no. You would say, so how did that make you feel? And they'll be able to explain, and then the other person will be able to understand where they're coming from. Another useful technique is restating. Sometimes when persons are upset, they will say things in an aggressive way or an angry way. So as the mediator or the conflict coach, one helpful way is to restate what they're saying in a softer and kinder tone, to tone down what they're saying, because the other party may get upset and offended. So you try to say what they're saying in a kinder way. Another useful tip, and this can be used personally as well as a tip that can be given to persons that we're assisting, is speaking from your perspective. So this is how I felt when you did this. Instead of saying you are, you know, a nasty person or whatever it is, you wouldn't be commenting on what you think about who they are or what they are. You'd be saying, when you played your music, this is how I felt. And that is essentially giving your perspective of what happened. Another technique is to, hold on, baby, go over this side. Another technique is to focus on the interest and not the positions. People will take positions on an issue, and they will hold on to the positions. So you'd want to not focus on their positions, but their interest, as I said before, because both parties may be interested in living at the same location. And so you'd want to focus on that and not the position of, I don't want to hear any music or I want to play my music. So that is also another helpful technique. Also reflecting feelings. So identify the speaker's emotions and encourage the speaker to correct you if you're wrong. So if you sense that the person is angry or disappointed, you can probably say, I sense that you are disappointed because of so and so. So it allows the person to understand that you know what they're saying, or you understand what they're saying, and it gives them a chance to say, well, yes, this is how I feel, or no, this is not how I feel. And then you'll be able to move forward with the discussion. Okay, another helpful technique is reflecting values and positive intentions. So it is always good to point out positives in the discussion. So for example, we would say, it seems as though values and intentions. So if you see that the person is really trying, they may not be fully there, but you can say, I see that you're trying to really come up with some solutions. And also the example that I have here is about values. Because sometimes, for example, privacy may be very important to the person. So they may be, saying a lot of things, but you'd have to work between or listen to what they're saying. And then you realize, well, it may not necessarily be that, but it may be that the person just values their privacy. And that is what is the underlying issue. All right, and then I'm going to move on to, as I said, if you have any questions, please put it in the chat box and I'll try to address them at the end. Then I move on to techniques for improving communications. So so I have phrased it in this way, things to avoid essentially. So you'd want to avoid, whether you're the one in the conflict or you are assisting someone who is in a conflict, you can advise them of these things or you can try and practice them yourself. So one thing that you'd want to avoid advising, analyzing, diagnosing, judging, evaluating, because that will cause some persons to close down or to get upset because even if you're correct, don't do it because some persons will really, turn off, and then that will basically end the process. You'd also want to avoid interrupting and allowing the parties to complete their thoughts. This is a little bit tricky, especially if you're the mediator, because some persons will want to take the floor for themselves, and some persons will probably not say anything. So you'd want to ensure that you keep a balance. And that is why it is important that in the opening, and even if it's your friends, to set some ground rules to say, listen, I will do this, but these are the rules that I want to conduct this by, and have them agree to the rules. And then you'll have a smoother process. But persons like to get it out. So as much as possible, try not to interrupt while the other party is speaking. And that goes, that is also true if you are one of the parties in the conflict. Also blaming and diverting responsibility. So as I said before, instead of saying you did this or you are stupid or dumb or whatever the case might be, you would want to say, this is how I felt when you did this. So you're not blaming the person, but you're just explaining how their actions affected you. And so it gives them a look at how you feel. But if you blame them, it's your fault and you're the reason why this happened, then it kind of puts a damper on the whole process. Another thing to avoid is negative nonverbal blockers. For example, frowning, huffing, sighing, crossing of arms, and so on. Persons will look at that and it won't be a positive result. Another thing to look at is trying not to minimize the issues or deny feelings. To say, oh, that's not a big deal, because what might be a big deal to you may not be a big deal to somebody else, and vice versa. So try not to minimize the issues or someone else's issues. And defending the other party, that's also something to avoid. And I think that speaks for itself. Cross-examining. Sometimes people will be asking, just say yes or no. That's a close-ended question. So you'd want to give open-ended questions so that persons are able to express themselves. Also, the use of but instead of and. If like someone may be saying something and sometimes instead of saying, yes, I hear you, but you can say, yes, I hear you. And, it gives a different feel to the discussion. So that's another technique. And I just want to give a brief, I'm not sure how I'm doing with time, but I just want to just give a little sense of what sometimes may be appropriate and what is not. Okay, no, I'm not at that slide yet. When is mediation? Okay, appropriate. All right, so mediation and conflict coaching, and that's why in the beginning I listed the 3 different categories, because not every matter can be mediated or coached, and not everything is suitable for court or for war. And so for mediation, first thing you'd want is consent or mutual consent. So if it's one person, you need their consent, because well, it goes without saying, it would be your discussion and not the other person's discussion. And you'd want the person to own the outcome. What the other thing about things that can be mediated is that usually there are issues that are complicated by strong emotions. And when people go to court, usually the judge is not going to allow them to tell their story. So in the setting of the mediation, it allows for persons who have strong emotions to express themselves. And the parties, usually mediation is helpful where the parties know each other. So if you're going to be seeing this person on a regular basis, whether at work or home, then that's a good case for mediation or coaching. Maintaining, and if you want to maintain a relationship with the parties, say mother, daughter, friends, you want to maintain relationships, so that's a good case for mediation. Parties feel the need for a third party to be present. So sometimes people just want, whether they don't feel safe emotionally or something, sometimes people want someone else to be there to guide the process. Also, the conflicts that cannot be avoided. As I said before, if you're going to be seeing the person every day and you have not dealt with the conflict, and it's something that is reoccurring, then you'd want to try mediation. Also, the parties may not want to go to the formal justice system. As I said before, if you go to court, the judge it is unlikely that the court is going to give you time to see what is important to you. They're just going to be applying the law as it relates to the matter that is before the court. So essentially, to sum it up, this last line sums up what I was saying at the top, is that the issues that can be negotiated, so these are things that you can hear someone else's side and try and resolve it, are like behavioral issues. Sometimes people borrow money or things from, the other party. Those you can try and work on. And also structure and systems, like you're at work and there might be something that, you would want to change or you would want done. So those are negotiable issues. Those issues can be mediated. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, but
Shahanara.
Oh, thank you. I see your hand raised. Did you want to say something?
I asked you the question in the chat box. Okay, I can tell you. Like my question is, when there is a power struggle, so how that time it will work, because people sometimes scared even to talk with their, upper position person, or like, you understand, where there is a.
Yes, I understand what you're saying.
So like, yeah.
Yes.
So, position.
Okay, so as a mediator is trained to identify where there are power differences. And I think it could be my next slide, but I mentioned something about that. And so if there is a severe power imbalance, then, and where the mediator realizes that this person is going to be at a disadvantage, then ethics would essentially dictate that you wouldn't want to go forward with the mediation, especially if you realize that the court may have been a better option for the person, or perhaps counseling. So there are other ways or other avenues that could be used to address the situation, as well as in the beginning and even throughout the mediation, the mediator has the, for want of a better word, power to what we call caucus. So the mediator can, if they realize that this person is not speaking and there seems to be an issue, the mediator can call, and usually it is advised that the mediator meets with both parties separately. So they would want to find out from you, like take a break and find out from you if you're okay, if you feel comfortable moving forward, is there anything you would want to share with me, and so on. And the mediator will also meet with the other party to get an understanding of where that person is coming from as well, because if that person, and then the mediator will be able to basically pick up from both ends if there is an issue. And also, I didn't mention this, but mediation is, there's usually an agreement that whatever is discussed is private unless the mediator is permitted to share. So whatever you would have discussed in the when you were meeting with the mediator separately, whether it be at the beginning of the process or throughout when something is picked up, then that is kept privately from the other party unless you want the mediator to share.
Thank you very much. We have another portion where we can ask question. So after you finish, we'll ask the question. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, moving to my other slide. Right, so I think I dealt with your thing here, where issues where mediation is not appropriate. So where parties are too upset and not ready to meet, and where parties may not have good intentions, because especially for matters of court, sometimes people will agree to mediation because people, the aim, as I said, is to come to an agreement. So persons will be given information, and sometimes if the mediator realizes that this person perhaps just want to get information to use against this other person in court, then in that situation, mediation may not be for good intentions, and so mediation would not be appropriate as well, where the parties are not cooperating. So because you need it, it's a mutual consent and cooperation, and the outcome belongs to the parties. So if they're not cooperating, then it breaks down the entire process, and you cannot force people to agree. You try to, as I said before, you can take people aside and meet with them, find out what the issues are, but you can't force people to cooperate. Also, issues for another set of issues that may be difficult to mediate, and it may not be appropriate, where you're trying to determine truth, fault, or punishment. That's really for the court, where there are issues of abuse, addictions, pathology, you would want to have some other avenue deal with that, whether it be counseling, some drug abuse program, or something like that. So, and matters of a criminal nature. So if someone did something illegal, that is not a matter for mediation, but perhaps a matter for the court. And the last point on this, which I touched on before, is where there is a power gap or a power imbalance between the parties. Because if one person is really very intimidated by the other, for example, and may not be willing to speak up, then it would really not be a fair mediation, as one person is not really being represented. And I just threw this in as well, issues that can be discussed but not appropriate for mediation. You'd want to stay away from trying to mediate beliefs, because how do you mediate beliefs? You can discuss it and people can agree to disagree, but not necessarily come to an agreement as it relates to beliefs, especially religious beliefs, and prejudices, anger, trust, blame, fault, values, interpretations, etc. So this is really the bulk of everything. I tried to fit most of what I felt was important to this topic in this area. And my last slide is really just highlighting some of the sources that I used. The first part of my training was by St. Stephen's Community House, and I do have their manual, so I touched on a few of their points, as well as a mediator's handbook that I have. So I thank you all for listening, and I hope that I was clear and concise, and that persons understood what I was saying. So I think I'm not sure who is next, but that is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen, for that wonderful guide on peer-to-peer conflict resolution. I think we've all learned a lot from those lovely slides that speak to mediation and what's actually necessary to prepare for mediation. We have a question and answer section that was scheduled next, but what I was hoping is, because we've got so many questions sent over chat because of so much interest in this story, maybe we'll try to make sure that they are addressed in our small discussion groups, but also at the end when we have report backs. So maybe what we could do is move on to small discussions. I know it's around 7:10. So if you could do that, that would be great. So I'm going to ask Teresa to help us, break into a small discussion groups where we'll have some sort of questions and opportunity to discuss peer-to-peer conflict resolutions and best practices.
Wally, did you want to go over the next two slides? Just
Sure.
introducing the small group, and I'm definitely on the tech, so I'll be controlling the breakout rooms. So when that time comes up, I will automatically be inviting everyone to join a breakout room. So there's going to be a pop-up window that comes up, and all you have to do is agree to join your breakout room. And I'm just going to pass it up to Ali to go over the next two slides that will introduce how we're going to run the breakout rooms.
Yeah, so the small group discussions, we just want to make sure that everyone remembers to introduce themselves. We'd love to know who you are. And we'll hope that you folks will have the following discussion. What have been people's concerns, priorities when accessing financial support at this time? What kind of support is needed now? How have people been coping? I think I'm reading a different slide. So we hopefully will ask everyone to basically agree to a community agreement, which basically means that it's one diva, one mic, so one person at a time. Make space, don't take space. And then, for example, if someone said something that's hurtful, say oops or ouch. Be mindful of the time. And if no one knows everything, so together we're going to be learning a lot. So actively listen to others and always be aware of power and privilege in the discussion. And please note that the session will be recorded.
Great. So we're going to open up the, thank you very much, Waleed. We're going to open up the breakout rooms. You should all see that prompt. I'm falling, falling, I'm falling, falling. Where to say?
Hello. And
Hi, Nita.
am I in the group with the Bernadette and
If you open up your participants tab, you'll see we have 5 people in the room, this small group, which is Marmar, Raji, and Wida. Hi, everyone. Please feel free to unmute yourself. I'm going to put the link to the slide deck in the chat box. Nita is group, sorry, Nita, you are group 1. So please feel free, everyone, to open up to slide
19.
Correct, 19.
Yeah, 19.
Great.
Yeah.
And I'll pass it on to you, Nita, to help facilitate the session. Feel free to welcome folks in the call to introduce themselves. Also, feel free to share your screen and pull up the slide decks so people can start seeing that too. Any questions you have, Nita?
No, I'm good. Yeah.
Great.
So, can you see my screen now?
I'm sick, mommy class.
Sorry, I'm taking long.
Can mommy class go? Why?
Sorry, it's taking long. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
And so our first question is, what has your experience been in trying to resolve conflict? Do you want to share? Sorry, I cannot see all the participants when I'm sharing my screen. So, Waleed, can you help me with asking people what their point of view is?
I think only in me and you in the class here.
Is it? Okay. Oh. Okay, let me. Okay. I see 4 people here.
Hi,
Are
I'm
you
Raj.
on your camera? Yes, yeah, my
Hi,
camera.
everyone. So I'll ask you the question.
Don't say. Is that Zoom?
Do you want to share what has your experience been in trying to resolve conflict? Like when you had any conflict in your group or with someone,
Zoom?
what?
Go.
Do you want to share anything, Vida or Raji?
Can you say again?
So when you have conflict with someone. Do you have any experience with to resolving any conflict with anyone?
Conflict means?
Means any problems, like issues, like someone is suggesting one thing and the other one is suggesting the other thing, and then you have to be mediator, or you are the person who's in the conflict.
Just a little smile and say sorry. Go away from it.
Oh yeah, that was the one thing Karen said, that avoid.
Yeah, avoid. Hi,
That's
Raji,
really
this is me.
Hi,
Hi,
Vida.
Raji.
How are you?
I'm good.
Hi.
Good. Nice to see you.
Do you want to share something, Raji?
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes personally I listen their idea or anything. After that, I know that is right or wrong. I will personally explain them, oh, this is not good. You have to do like this way. This is okay, like that. When I work, I did like this mediation. At home, yeah, now I have teenagers. I will be patient with them. After they calm down, I am telling the truth. This is you did wrong way. You need to do. Then they can listen like that. Yeah, usually I am keeping my mind patiently. I am doing yoga and meditation. That's why I control everything. Yeah,
That's how.
yeah. Yeah. Okay, thank you. That's it.
Thank you so much, Raji, for sharing. How about Barmar? Do you want to share your experience?
Hi everyone. Sorry. No, I'll pass, but I'll just listen if I may.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Oh, everyone left. Everyone left from the group. I don't know what happened.
Yeah,
You came on. Yeah. Maybe it's just you and me. What do you think is your conflict management style? So,
oh boy.
I know
don't
it
know what to
depends
say.
sometimes, right, on the person who's in front of you.
I'm not sure how to describe. Can I ask you that the same question?
Yeah. So that's, what do you think is your conflict management style? So I'll share mine, and I think by that you'll have idea. So I like to avoid whenever it's possible. If not, then I look for a very peaceful moment when I can talk with peacefully to them, and I can explain. Before I talk to them, I think about a lot of different options that I can give it to them, and hopefully they be satisfied by the options.
Well, for me, like, I don't know, I've actually been sort of like tuning out, so I don't know where we're at, unfortunately, but I would say that I'm more of like a compromise, which it's not fully satisfactory.
I know.
Yeah.
But sometimes it feels better when we don't aggravate the situation, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's better than, but like some people are sort of not willing to not let it aggravate. Like, well, I don't know. I'm just dealing with a really traumatic situation at the moment, so it's like,
oh, I'm
yeah.
so sorry.
How are you? Thanks. How are you involved in this, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, no, of course, no. I am in Woven community, and I started in 2017. We started a small parents group, and then after COVID, it grew from 50 parents to 150 parents. And we just try to help each other whatever way we can.
Mm-hmm.
And I had identified that we had a lot of people who were newcomer, and they had low income jobs, and they had difficulty paying their rents and everything. So I went to a person who has close contacts with the agencies, and then she connected me with different persons and different agencies, and then we were able to distribute a lot of stuff for the community, what they needed.
Oh,
And
that's great. That's great.
while doing all those things, we have 4 market rental building around, and then 2 TCHC building and 2 condos. So we had to distribute all those stuff to different buildings. And I had to make a volunteer working group. I made that, and I realized that there are a lot of conflicts when we do this community work. Like
There are a
not
lot
everyone
of, sorry, a
agrees.
lot, sorry, Nita, there are a lot of
Disagreements.
Oh,
They don't like to, do the things like others doing. They want to do it differently, and sometimes it's not comfortable for everyone. But
oh, you know what?
it's
That's really interesting to hear because I see a lot of that happening on groups.
Mhm.
But if you have more time, maybe if you feel comfortable, you could explain to me. So
Mhm.
right now you're still managing like parents group, or are you doing
Yeah,
something else as
yeah,
well, if I may ask?
yeah. I'm managing that group.
Oh, okay. Very, very cool.
How about you? What drag you in this?
Well, I'm just well, I'm just dealing with a very difficult situation, but I'm
Mhm.
also interested in community building, and I did notice a lot of issues on online groups, and it's usually not fair. It's usually people who are friends with admin, they get away with a lot.
Oh,
But
yeah.
they should. So yeah, so it's interesting. I don't know how much time do we have on this breakout group? You know?
We'll get notice when.
Oh, I know, but usually it's like a 30-second notice.
But we have
Yeah.
4 questions, and I think everyone's in the group right now. I see a lot of writing in there.
Oh, they're writing in the chat.
So we have a document that Anna shared in the chat, so everyone can open the document, and there is
Okay.
slide number 19
Oh, I
where I.
haven't had a chance to. Okay. Okay.
So I'm
Interesting.
doing it for you. Yeah, so it's okay.
Thanks if you're
So
taking
you're
notes.
managing an online group?
No, no, but please don't quote like my name on
No.
the
Okay.
the
Yeah, I'll
notes.
take it. Okay.
Thanks. No, I'm not managing, but I'm wanting to. Like I'm wanting to manage either online or offline.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So you can start with your neighbors. What community you are in?
like geographic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like if you don't mind, can we not put that on the notes?
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Yeah,
That's
I'm in the southeast end.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean what I'm interested in, other than helping vulnerable people with groceries, there's not a lot of resources in the area, and it's actually high need. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's actually very high need. Like
Mm-hmm.
how you're saying newcomers, like just nearby, there's like a lot of buildings with very poor, marginalized people, a lot of newcomers as well, and seniors and disabled. It's actually quite a lot. And there isn't a help group specifically for the area.
Do,
Like there's
do
one in
you
the
want to connect with different groups and agencies? They're active right now in Southeast.
You know what? Agencies are not. I'll just be really. I'll be very honest. I'll be very very honest. Like they're not helping agencies right now. They're using like a lot of volunteer labor, like a lot, like to cook and distribute food and provide protective equipment, clothing. So I don't feel that that would be the way to go. Like I would just go because people are very willing to help. So I would be more like, um, because nonprofits are not gonna give their contacts for who helps them. So it'd be more like finding a few people who are willing to help, and then it's
So
sort
that
of
is
go
that
ahead.
is
Yeah.
the work we are doing. I don't know how much time we have, so I want you to inform everything. That is the work we're doing in mutual aid. We are going to each and every grassroots groups. Like I started when I started, I didn't even know that I was doing that community work. Right? It was just a friends group, and then it converted in the community work. So we are looking for those people who want to do that work or who is already doing that, and if they need anything, we just want to ask them, how can we help, how can we provide.
Oh, really nice. Would it be okay to just exchange email and then
Yeah, sure.
continue?
Do you want to write down my email address?
Yeah, I guess in the
I can put it in the chat. Yeah.
if you just do it private, you instead of to everyone.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks. And then I might need to step out after that. So then we can.
This is awesome. Yeah, yeah. Please
Thank you.
contact me and I'll connect you with.
Okay, I'm just writing you direct message. Oh, okay, I got it. Thanks. Thanks so much.
It's great to hear that. Yeah, a lot of people are trying to do this community work. Because right now I'm looking for those groups and it's so difficult to find them because agencies, they're not disclosing, or maybe they're protecting their leaders, right? Like when I started, go to the one already established group, and the lady from that group, she's protecting me from every agency and everyone who's gonna attack or who's gonna use me as a volunteer. So I know I understand what you're trying to say here.
Oh, all right. Well, it's been really nice talking to you. So I'll be in touch by email.
Yeah, sure.
And
right now I'm South Scarborough cluster coordinator. So I'm looking for all the South Scarborough areas, and mostly those are NIAs in the map. And this is great. Yeah, just email me and I'll forward you all the information.
Okay, thank you so much, Nita. And I wish you a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks. Nice talking to you. All right. Bye-bye for now.
Welcome back, everyone.
Thank you.
We all here? Or we're still waiting for more people? Is everyone here? All right. It's time for, I don't see Anna. Is she here? Yes.
Here.
Nita, the other group has not joined yet.
Yeah.
If you just want to give me one moment, let me figure out. Thank you.
All right.
Nita, I like the way you speak. I wrote it down, but I forgot. But while I was writing, I liked it. Like, oh, what did you say? I forgot. But I wrote it there. I was enjoying when you say.
So, you know what Shahanara? Sorry. When I was doing this, every single day was a challenge. Every single day.
Wow, 150 people. That's
Because
not so easy.
not just 150 parents, there are 200 kids, and then whatever we get, we had to distribute in an age-wise, and then.
Nita, just so you know, everyone is in the main room now.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome back.
So now we are going to report back. So is there anyone from group number 1 who wants to share their key insights?
Yeah, I can quickly do that. Just based on, or I'm gonna ask Tanya if she wants to do that, because she also helped put this lovely notes together. So Tanya, do you want to do that for us?
I mean, we had some good conversations about compromise and what that means. Perhaps, maybe what if everyone loses everything? Is that, because some people don't want to compromise. We talked about the impact of trauma on arriving at compromise, because perhaps people don't have the psychological capacity to either accept responsibility or accept compromise. And I think what I love is that mediation and trauma do not have to be mutually exclusive, even though, when I was reading the slides, I thought, oh, maybe, and I have two examples where trauma was a barrier to progress. But after our discussion, I thought I could see, people can have supports. We can take more time if we have it. So there's definitely ways forward. It's just, I think, a matter of resources and capacities, as always.
Thank you so much for saying that. And that reminds us of equity in the process, something that Karen reminded us throughout the conversation as well. And when we're talking about resources that are needed, one of the things that we identified was culture appropriate therapy, but also making sure that, those folks that want to play a mediating role have the resources and the understanding to play that role. So they do it effectively. So I just want to thank Tanya and for the rest of the group for such an insightful conversation. And I believe we wrote a lot of our notes on the shared slides, so you folks can see our other thoughts, but it was a very thorough and insightful conversation.
Thank you, Tanya, for sharing. Now I would like to call group number 2 to share their insights.
I think we were number 1 or 2, I forget.
Shahanara, you're the second group. There's only 2 groups that met.
Okay, sorry.
You're the second one. No worries. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm telling. So we talked about the conflict management style, and also the what can be conflict and what cannot be, and what's the difference. So we talked generally, like it's sometimes it's very pretty hard. Also sometimes it's like we learn how to solve the problems. The main thing is everyone shared that active listening to both parties to ensure that they work together and conflict can be solved. Also, we have to be calm and respectful about everyone's concerns. So those things we talked about. Also that some people said about what do you think the conflict management style? So we talked about that we should listen, we should be patient, give space to others, always should be calm. Also, couldn't be only one better style than other style, and it can be the blended, like it can be the balanced style. So that also we talked about. Also, somebody said that it can be avoidant, and also it's difficult sometimes to talk about conflict. So it sometimes gives them frustration. At the same time, people try to manage their conflict. And another thing we talked about how conflict in the organization, we can manage it. So people say that usually people are generally good and holding space for everyone. And also like, yeah, just a second. Yeah, there could be agreement so that we should respect the agency's agreement or individuals when we work together. Many people, there should be a conflict management, like group agreement. We call it group agreement. Am I right? Teresa, would you like to say something, please?
Would anyone from the group like to share any insights that they learned before we pass it back to Nita? Please feel welcome to unmute yourself and share any last thoughts. Okay, Nita, well, if there isn't any, I don't want to count anyone off. We'll pass it back to you, Nita. Thank you. And I'll share my screen.
Yeah, please. So here on the screen, you can see it's our next session. It's on next Tuesday. And I would like to invite all of you, and if possible, invite your friends as well for the next session. It's about eviction support and navigating the landlord-tenant board. That is the high priority issue right now in the market rental buildings and TCHC buildings. So please join us on March 16 from 6 to 7:30. And can someone put a link in the chat to join, to register for the session? And now I would like to invite, if anyone has any community updates, they know about any events happening and they want to share that.
Yeah, I have a quick one. We do have a community meeting with the new developer for phase 4 and 5 of Regent Park development happening tomorrow. If folks like Shahanara and others would like to be part of that, I can send you the invitation via email. I'm planning to do so tomorrow morning, but it's in the evening. And it'll be a great way to hear from the developers on how they plan to support the community's requests for phase 4 and 5, specifically community benefits, such as like a pathway to home ownership, employment and training for youth, and also racialized and marginalized community members, and also how to support small businesses and social enterprises in our community. Just as a quick context, the developer announced about $26.8 million for community benefits. So we will love your support at tomorrow's meeting. That's happening at 6 o'clock, and I'll send the details as well.
Also, I can share one thing.
Yeah, sure.
There is a Scarborough Southwest COVID-19 vaccine information session. So if anyone wants to join, because it's especially for Nita, because she works hard there, I know. So, and also Bernadette. So it's about the COVID-19 vaccine information session. It will happen Thursday, March 11 at 7 p.m. And I can share the details. I already shared it to the Signal group, but I can share it now. Yeah.
Forward, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
And
Yes, please, Shahanara and Walid, if you can add, sorry, Anita, if you can add any links into the chat box and then people can grab it right now who are interested, that would be amazing. Any other updates?
all right, so thank you so much, Karen, for giving us so delightful. Like it was the very informative session, and we learned a lot, like how to handle the conflicts, and that is the most important thing when we do community work. And thank you everyone for joining us today, and I would love to see you next week, next Tuesday.
Yes, just want to say thank you for inviting me. And I did share with Naomi today that I will make the slides available. So I will be emailing Anna and Naomi, and I'm sure that they'll be able to email them to whosoever wants to, remember what we discussed, because I didn't read word for word everything. So thank you all for having me and for welcoming me in your homes. I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Please unmute yourself and say goodbye. Before you leave, check out the chat box.
Yeah.
The link for community
Thank
updates are
you.
in there.
Yeah, I just shared it. Thank you. Thank you, Karen.
Bye,
for
Tanya.
listening.
Bye,
Bye.
Tanya.
Bye, everyone. Have a lovely
Bye.
evening.
Thank you. Bye. Good night.
Stay safe.
Good night.
Tanya, what's your daughter's name in the background? Oh, she chimed off. Okay. Bye, Miles. Bye, Karen. Bye, Walid. Thank you all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Wida.